Let's face it, life wasn't always a walk in the park. But hey, I never complained. My folks weren't rich, but they weren't dirt poor either. They scraped by, gave me a good education, and instilled a strong work ethic in me. That work ethic landed me a decent job right out of college, accountant for a boring but stable insurance firm. 40 years flew by in a blur of spreadsheets, tax forms, and endless cups of lukewarm coffee. My life wasn't exciting, but it was predictable. Then, something completely unexpected happened. One dreary Monday morning, a new client walked into my life, Ms. Lewis. She wasn't your typical client. In her late 50s, she exuded a sharp wit and a no-nonsense attitude that commanded respect. Unlike the stuffy insurance executives I was used to, Ms. Lewis owned a chain of cozy cafes scattered across the city. Lewis and Bean, they were called, each one a haven of warm pastries and strong coffee. "All right, Sarah," Ms. Lewis said, her voice a brisk alto. "Let's get down to business. These receipts are a mess. I need someone who can cut through the clutter and tell me if I'm making any damn money." I smiled. Here was a woman who spoke my language. We spent the next few hours poring over receipts and invoices. By the end of the day, I wasn't just her accountant, I felt a flicker of admiration for this self-made woman who built a small empire from scratch. "You're good, Sarah," Ms. Lewis finally conceded, leaning back in her chair. "You see the forest for the trees, and that's a rare thing these days." "Thank you, Ms. Lewis," I replied, a sense of satisfaction warming my chest. It was the first time in years anyone had truly appreciated my work. That same week, Ms. Lewis announced a surprise, a weekend getaway for the entire staff. "Consider it a team-building exercise," she declared, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Besides, you lot look like you could all use a break from these four walls." The getaway was held at a charming cabin nestled deep in the woods. There were bonfires, board games, and enough laughter to scare away the squirrels. It was also there that I met Alex, Ms. Lewis' son. Unlike his mother, Alex was all laid-back charm and easy smiles. He rarely appeared at the cafes, preferring to spend his time traveling and exploring the world, as he put it. "So you're the accountant who keeps my mom sane," Alex said, sidling up to me at the bonfire one evening. He held a beer in one hand and a lopsided grin on his face. "Something like that," I replied, feeling a heat rise in my cheeks. Alex wasn't conventionally handsome, but his easygoing personality and adventurous spirit were undeniably attractive. That night, under a blanket of stars, we talked for hours. By the end of the weekend, we were practically inseparable. As we said our goodbyes at the office on Monday, Alex leaned in and whispered, "See you around, Sarah." His touch sent a shiver down my spine, and I knew, with a certainty that surprised even me, that this wasn't just a fleeting office romance. The next few months were a whirlwind. Alex and I were officially dating, sneaking stolen kisses in the stairwell and late-night texts that made my phone buzz with a secret thrill. But there was a dark cloud hanging over our happiness. Alex insisted on keeping things quiet, especially from his mother. "She'd freak," he'd mutter, brushing off my concerns. "She's got this whole image of me being a carefree bachelor, wouldn't understand." I didn't like it, this cloak and dagger business, but I was smitten. Love makes you do stupid things, and here I was, tiptoeing around like a teenager on a first date. Still, a niggling worry gnawed at me. What if someone found out? What if Ms. Lewis, with her sharp eyes and even sharper mind, caught on? Then, 6 months in, everything changed. I woke up one morning feeling different, a strange flutter in my stomach that wouldn't go away. A home pregnancy test confirmed my suspicions, I was pregnant. Excitement bubbled up in my chest, quickly followed by a cold dread. How would Alex react? That night, after work, I practically shoved the test into his hands. His face went white as a sheet. The carefree smile I loved so much was replaced by a grimace. This can't be happening," he stammered, his voice tight. "Alex," I began, my voice shaky with a mixture of hope and fear, "we can figure this out. We can. He cut me off, his voice harsh. Look, babe, he said, using a nickname that suddenly sounded cold and impersonal. This isn't the right time for me to be a dad. I'm not ready for all that. My heart sank. The warmth I felt moments ago turned to ice. But Alex. No buts, he snapped. This needs to be taken care of. You know what I mean? His callous words stung. This wasn't the Alex I thought I knew. Taken care of? I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Yeah, he said, avoiding eye contact. There are clinics. It's no big deal these days. Anger flared within me, hot and bitter. No big deal? I shouted, finally snapping. This is my body, Alex. This is my life you're talking about, like it's nothing. He flinched at my outburst, but his jaw remained stubbornly set. Look, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm not trying to be a jerk. But you gotta be realistic. You're not exactly a spring chicken anymore. What if something goes wrong? What if? He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. I was old, unfit, unworthy. Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision. And what about Ms. Lewis? He added, his voice dropping to a low murmur. If she finds out, I'm toast. You're toast. We're both toast. His words were a cruel slap in the face. It wasn't just about him anymore. He was threatening my job, my livelihood, all to protect his precious image as the carefree bachelor's son. The man I loved was turning out to be a selfish coward, and the realization shattered me. I spent the next few days in a daze. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My work suffered, and Ms. Lewis, bless her perceptive heart, must have noticed. One afternoon, she called me into her office, her usually sharp eyes filled with concern. Sarah, she began, her voice gentle but firm. What's going on? You look like you haven't slept in a week. Taking a deep breath, I blurted out the only truth I could manage. I'm pregnant, I whispered, the tears finally spilling over. And the father, he left me. My voice cracked, and a sob escaped my lips. Ms. Lewis pulled me into a surprisingly strong hug, her arms a warm haven in the storm of my emotions. Ms. Lewis' hug was a dam breaking open. Tears streamed down my face as I poured out my story, the betrayal, the fear, the overwhelming desire to keep the baby. However, I did not mention the name of the scoundrel. To my surprise, she didn't judge. Instead, a knowing sadness clouded her eyes. Men can be real jerks, Sarah, she said, her voice rough with emotion. My own husband walked out on me years ago, leaving me with a tiny Alex to raise on my own. It was tough, honey, tougher than you can imagine, but I did it. Her words were a balm to my wounded soul. Here was a strong, successful woman who had faced similar hardship and emerged victorious. It gave me a flicker of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, I could do this too. Look, Ms. Lewis continued, her voice firming up. This is your decision, Sarah. But if you choose to keep the baby, I'm with you all the way. We can figure out a way to make things work. Maybe some remote work, lighten your load a bit. Loyalty goes both ways, Sarah, and you've been a damn good accountant for me all these years. Relief washed over me, warm and welcome. The fear of losing my job, my livelihood, had been a constant weight on my chest. Now, Ms. Lewis was offering a lifeline, a chance to be a mother without sacrificing my career. The next few months were a blur of doctor's appointments, nesting instincts, and a growing sense of determination. Alex never called, never checked in. But with each passing day, the little life growing inside me filled that emptiness with something new, something precious, a love that was fierce and unconditional. Finally, the day arrived. A healthy baby boy, with chubby cheeks and a head full of dark hair, entered the world. Holding him in my arms, the tiny fingers wrapped around mine, I knew I'd made the right decision. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm.